Filming in casinos, and more specifically at the poker table. This is the conversation topic du jour. So I guess the policy that I operated under when I started this vlog, at least, was that it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. And that's definitely the policy that I operated under when I started, and as I was doing my first handful of vlogs. And funnily enough, eventually when I did ask a floor person about the policy of filming at the tables, those are the words that said floor person spoke to me. So it was at that point that I kind of assumed that there was a decent amount of gray area regarding filming and taking photos, Snapchat, Instagram, all that stuff while you're at the poker table. I was trying to come up with a decent metaphor while I was driving over here for the whole filming thing. And I guess I kind of look at it as similar to speeding. If you're to ask a police officer whether or not you're allowed to drive over the speed limit, the answer is either going to obviously be no, or the answer is going to be, why are you asking me such a dumb question? The real answer to that question is, if you drive 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, no police officer is ever going to stop you. If you drive 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, well, it depends how fast everyone else is driving. It depends how many people are on the road, how busy the police officer is that day. If you're taking a photo at the poker table of your chip stack or your hole cards, or if you take a 5 or 10 second Snapchat while you're at the table, nobody's gonna say anything. It's not gonna be that big of a deal, because it isn't that big of a deal. If you are recording your entire poker session, making a vlog, then you're really pushing it. You're pushing the limits of what's allowed, what the policy is, you're testing what that policy is. So technically what the policy is that filming at the poker table is frowned upon by the casino. And if you ask a poker room manager, that's what they're gonna have to tell you. They're gonna have to say that it's officially against their policy. The room manager has to give that answer. He's not gonna risk his job by giving an answer that is different from what the official policy is. So there's two main differences when it comes to my little metaphor there, comparing filming at the table to speeding. The first issue is the matter of protecting people's privacy. So I've always tried to be really diligent about protecting people's identities at the poker table. Not interested in getting anyone's faces into the shots. I don't think it adds any value whatsoever to the story that I tell. So some people might argue that that's not good enough. You are still getting people's shirts, their hands, etc. in there. And I guess my response to that is, I don't personally understand why the poker table needs to be viewed as this private sanctuary of hidden activity that goes on. Of course, my opinion is skewed by the fact that I'm a professional poker player. But I guess I just feel like gambling has always been viewed as this sort of underhanded activity, even though it's perfectly legal here in Las Vegas to sit down at the poker table and gamble with your money. For some reason, by a lot of people, it's still viewed as this potentially shady / nefarious activity that's enjoyed by adults. I guess I've just never viewed gambling as something that needs to be kept so private, so secretive. That's my opinion. Obviously, other people have different opinions, and I respect that. It's why I've tried to conceal information, identifying info of the other players at the table. Some people think it shouldn't be allowed whatsoever. I obviously disagree, but I don't know if we'll ever see eye to eye on that. The second main difference between my speeding metaphor and the issue of filming at the game tables is the casino, and I think this might be the most important issue. The casino is highly concerned about what type of message someone at the table is conveying, especially if they're sharing what they're filming with a wider audience. So by this point, I have asked and I've spoken to a couple of different poker room managers. One of the poker room managers mentioned that anything that involves the branding of the room, whether that's the logo or other identifying factors of the room, anything that's being filmed in that room needs to be cleared by the PR department. And that sort of thing can take weeks to get sorted out, get approved. So the poker room has to be highly protective of how their environment, how their brand is being portrayed. And are they going to allow some unknown individual set up shop in their poker room, film the action, and then share that without having any say in the final product that's being shared? And to me, I think this is much more the issue here than any sort of gaming regulations. I certainly don't pretend to be some sort of gaming regulations expert. I did look over the gaming regulations, use of devices and all that stuff. I'll even put a link down below to some of the relevant information. I can't find anything in particular that says you cannot film the action at a poker table. If somebody smarter than me wants to have a look at that and see if they can find something, I'm all ears. I've had other people smarter than me look through it and actually send me the links to this stuff. I feel like if it was a gaming commission issue, that the casinos would probably pretty easily point to the line item in these regulations and say, this is where it says you can't do this. Unfortunately, you can't do this. One of the reasons I wanted to start this vlog in the beginning was I kind of felt like there was a small to medium-sized hole in the poker content that was available. There's certainly things like the WPT that still gets airtime, lots of different things on YouTube of that sort, but I felt like there's a little bit of a disconnect where poker rooms and casino properties, you know, that you show all these big buy-in tournaments with these huge cash prizes and all that stuff, but is the property really being shown off in a way to, you know, your average everyday 1-2, 1-3, 2-5 no limit hold'em player in sort of a relatable manner? Whether the PR departments, whether the marketing departments in the casinos are able to see that as well, remains to be seen. But I guess I just wanted to try and build up that audience and create some value, create some cool videos, be able to show people that, you know, it's how it works. How do you walk up to a poker room? How do you buy chips? How do you approach a game? Sometimes these poker rooms, they can be a little bit intimidating. So the question comes back to, if I had approached a casino in the first place with all these questions and ideas, what would the answer have been? Probably no. But now that we're a community of, you know, 17,500 people at time of recording, there's lots of interaction here. There's comments being asked and answered down below. There's comments being asked and answered in the videos. Unfortunately, it seems like Aria at the moment, official word is not too cool with the filming at the moment. Same goes at Bellagio, although it seems like they want to discuss further and told me to come back to them after they've talked about it some more. So definitely not going to give up in that regard. Going to stay positive and hope we can keep sharing these scenes from the tables. I know that's a lot of people's favorite scenes in these vlogs. They like to watch the action as it happens. There's a couple other spots that haven't given me an official no, so can go back to those until that happens. And in the meantime, we'll have to see. We'll have to see if you guys want to stick around and see more of Las Vegas. Let me know if the style of retelling hands when we're away from the table, if that works like this as an example. If that works for you, if you're still interested in that, awesome. If not, maybe I'll just see you at the table sometime. If you ever need to give a monologue in your vlog, I recommend that staircase right back there. Cool shot of the Veer Towers in the city center, huh? Not too bad. Alright, just sat in a 2-5 game. Gonna chill in there for a little bit and keep an eye on the 5-10 game. It's short-handed right now. Looks so-so. Not especially great, but I'm gonna keep an eye on it. In the 2-5 for now. In for 1,000. Don't tell anyone I'm filming right here. Quick update on the day. Still grinding away at the 2-5 game. Game is slightly above average. Average to slightly above average, I would say. Decided to stick around there. Seems much better than the 5-10, so been grinding it out at the 2-5. Just want to go over the 1 or 2 most interesting hands so far that have happened. First one was 10-9 of spades from under the gun. I opened for 15. I think my standard open is 20, but the table is playing, at this point, one of the fun players had stepped away, maybe even 2 of them, so was left a little bit tighter of a lineup as a result, so I decided to make it 15 instead of 20 with the 10-9 of spades. There are 2 calls, I believe, and then the small blind 3 bets to 65. I think we're about $850 deep, so I think we're deep enough for the call to be a decent situation and decently profitable. So I make the call and the other 2 players fold. The flop is pretty favorable flop. 8 of spades, 7 of spades, 5 of spades. Flop a flush with a straight flush redraw. Pretty good situation. The small blind continues. He bets $110. Pretty sizable bet as a C bet. I think if he were to bet smaller, then it might be more likely to be a bluff. I think with that sizing, seems like he's pretty happy with his hand, pretty happy with the flop. You could go one of two ways. You could flat, look for that safe card and look to get it in on the turn, or just raise it up here on the flop, hope to get action. That's what I decided to do, so I raised it up to $325, I think. Yeah, $325. Small blind thinks for a little bit, sticks it in there, jams for $850 effective, or maybe $800 effective. I make the snap call. He rolls over pocket queens. He does have the queen of spades, so we're looking to dodge another spade on the turn of the river. Turn pairs the 8, so now we just have to dodge a spade, a queen, and an 8. River's a brick. So that is definitely the biggest pot of the day so far. Scoop a pretty good one there. Pretty happy with that hand. Pretty shortly after that hand, there was this hand. There are 3 limps or so to me on the button. I have ace-8 offsuit. It's a pretty terrible hand, but sometimes I'll just limp the button with pretty weak holdings. I wonder if raising and just trying to take it down here is best, but I'm pretty hesitant to put too much money in pre-flop with this terrible of a hand. It's basically just a bluff with a blocker and just trying to win it pre-flop. Not trying to inflate the pot with this sort of a hand pre-flop, so I don't know, I just decided to limp along, and it goes 5 or 6 ways to a flop of 8-6-3 with 2 clubs and 1 diamond. Pretty good flop for us. There's a couple checks, and there's a short stack who jams all in on the flop for $59. The guy on his immediate left, he calls, and I decided to call as well. I guess you could consider raising here, but I feel like you're always folding out worse hands and obviously always getting action from better hands. You do fold out some draws, flush draws and straight draws, but I just decided to flat, keep the guy in the middle in there, keep his range in there. Turn looks like a pretty good card. Turn is an ace of diamonds, brings backdoor flush draw, gives us top 2 pair. This time the guy in the middle, he leads out for $110. Normally I would be liking this situation, but the guy has been playing pretty tight and it's a pretty decent sized bet. But I feel like it plays itself at this point. Can't really fold now, so I call. River is the 4 diamonds, brings backdoor flush in and potential straight, but I think it's so unlikely that he has either of those hands. But he doesn't stop betting. He bets $160 on the river. And I actually think for a while, it seems pretty tough to fold, but it also seems unlikely that I beat anything other than I can beat 8-6 for flop 2 pair, and I can beat a busted flush draw. I feel like he could be building a pot on the turn with a flush draw and then try to take it down on the river, but bet sizing just doesn't really feel that way. The likelihood that he has 8-6 when we block that hand somewhat, and he continues betting on this run out, also seems somewhat unlikely. But I feel like our hand is just too good to ever fold in this spot. So I toss in the 160, and sure enough, he has pocket sixes. So I feel like it was a little bit of a cooler. Not a huge fan of my pre-flop play, but again, we're on the button. It's $5. There's already a bunch of limpers in there. I don't know. I don't love it. Don't completely hate it, but yeah, you just fold that. If you just make a standard pre-flop fold, you end up saving yourself hundreds of dollars. And pretty clear example of how a pre-flop decision can compound itself into a pretty bad situation. So I'm up a few $100 at this point. Gonna keep at it, gonna keep grinding. Gonna see how the table is when I get back there. Probably not gonna play for too much longer, but I'm gonna keep after it for now. Just wrapping up the session. Definitely ran good overall. Had pocket aces like 4 times or something in this session. One of the times ended up being a pretty funny hand. So there's an early position limp, and the cutoff raises to 20. We have aces on the button, we make it 60. Folds back to the cutoff and calls. Flop is deuce, deuce, deuce. The cutoff leads for 40. I decide to just flat call. Keep ranges wide and all that. Turn is the 8 of diamonds, brings a backdoor flush draw. This time he leads out for 60. I just call again. River is a king, and he shoves all in for 200 or 250 or something like that.
Going up.
So obviously we call.
7th floor.
He rolls over king queen. So yeah, that one worked out pretty well. Overall, we finished up exactly $700 to the dollar. $700 to the good. So yeah, we've been running pretty good, you could say. Definitely above average on this vlog. Next time we get together, next time we chat, we're definitely gonna have to chat about win rates. Because I promise you, it is not always this easy. And I don't want it to look like it's always this easy. I don't want you to think that you just show up and you win 9 out of 10 sessions or whatever. We've certainly got that vlog run good going on. But like I said, it's not always this easy, and I really want to, I think it'd be interesting to talk about win rates a little bit, find out how much you can expect to make as a low to mid stakes professional poker player, get into some numbers. But there was enough chatting for this episode. We'll get into it next episode. See you then.